Like to have everybody's attention for a moment.
There's a stat. I don't like bringing up stats, but there's one stat about the Panthers.
In the world is James Harden better scorer than Michael Jordan?
No, he's more creative in that.
Traveling is not creative, Brandon.
He doesn't.
No matter what the score is, and they've said it themselves, whether they're up 10, down 20, whatever, they know they can turn it on whenever.
Why did you have to bring up the Cowboys in this conversation?
Lived in Texas for 2 years and just could not stand to watch Cowboys football.
All right, listen up.
Welcome to The Rundown. Here's Desmond Johnson.
And welcome back to another edition, stay at your ass at home edition of The Rundown. I'm your host, Desmond Johnson, joined by regular contributors to Sports Carolina Monthly. He is a regular contributor to IMG Lyrical Sports. He is one of the voices of App State Sports, the studio host for them, and also the host of his own podcast, Stone's Throw. Ryan Stone here with us today on The Rundown. Ryan, what's going on, man?
Oh, just trying to find new ways to occupy myself.
and then we also, it's for real. Everything's for real right now. Then we also have regular Sports Carolina Monthly contributor and also a member of The Rundown, Brandon Blakney in the house, joining us live as well. What's going on, Brandon?
Hey, another day, man, alive and healthy. I feel like that's going to hit a little bit different after all this is going to pass through.
Yeah, definitely. This is the week of April the 6th. Wanted to get into a couple topics. We're not going to keep everybody super long. Just wanted to touch on some things because clearly there's not a whole lot to really discuss right now, but wanted to hit on three things that's going on right now in sports that I kind of wanted to hit with you guys. And starting off, I wanted to talk about Tom Brady. As we know, Tom Brady is going to be the starting quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. My question to you guys, and I want to start off with Ryan, is Tom Brady too damn old to be playing football? Because his birthday's in August, so he'll be 43 at that point. And I did some research before we came on today just to see how quarterbacks have done after they've turned 40. It looks like Brett Favre had the best year at age 40 with the Minnesota Vikings, his first year with them. He actually threw for 4,200 yards, had 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, which I thought was interesting because it was the first time in his career he hadn't thrown for double-digit interceptions except for his rookie year when he didn't really play. And then Warren Moon played till he was 44, but those last couple of years he didn't really play that much with Seattle and Kansas City. I'll kick it to you first, Ryan. Is Tom Brady too damn old to be playing football now?
I don't think he's too old as long as Tampa Bay actually addresses their offensive line needs. That's been a problem that Jameis Winston has had to endure there for a few years now. I think as long as they address their offensive line and make it a case where Tom Brady doesn't have to run for his life, with the weapons he's got there, Tampa Bay had a much improved defense last year with Bruce Arians as the head coach. I also think they need to add another running back probably in the second round of the draft. But I don't think he's too old as long as they give him the protection. He's got enough weapons there in Tampa Bay. That was a great situation for him to slide into. As long as they address the offensive line, that should be their first round pick. And if they have to move up, give up their second round pick to do that, I think that's something they have to do when you bring in Tom Brady. You're obviously going all in with the roster you've got. So I think that's the big thing that they have to do is just protect Tom Brady.
Brandon, me and Rod talked about this last week, but we only touched on it briefly. In terms of Tampa Bay and with Tom Brady being the starting quarterback there, we all know about Tom Terrific. I went to go look to see if any quarterbacks had won the Super Bowl after the age of 40, and it looks like it's Tom Brady who won it 2 years ago when he was 41. And then I think Lynn Dawson won it at the age of 40, Super Bowl 4 with Kansas City Chiefs. So those are the only two I could find. A lot of people think of like Joe Montana and others. He never made it back to the Super Bowl, and he wasn't 40. He stopped playing before he turned 40 with the Kansas City Chiefs. He did lead them to an AFC Championship game. So my question to you, Brandon, is Tampa Bay the favorite to win the NFC South with Tom Brady at quarterback, knowing what Drew Brees coming back, who's over 40 himself in New Orleans? Atlanta is going to be starting nine of their 11 starters on offense are going to be former first-round picks after picking up Todd Gurley
Yeah.
So, what's your thoughts on Tampa Bay? Do you think that they are a favorite to win the NFC South?
I definitely think they are the favorite right now. The Saints probably have something to say about that as well. But like you said, Drew Brees is knocking on that door. Father Tom's been knocking for a while for him too. So I do think this is the most talent Brady's played with though in years. I mean, he's got receivers. They've got a really good athletic tight end who's going to be a mismatch problem. I agree with Ryan, though. They're definitely going to need to add some backs. Last year, Ronald Jones got plenty of opportunities, didn't really capitalize. So they're going to need to address that. Definitely get a left tackle, reliable center in there. You can address that in the draft. Maybe even look at a couple veterans. They haven't spent a lot of money, and a lot of their defensive talent is homegrown. I thought they were going to take a step back losing Quan Alexander last year, but they didn't. They honestly actually might have gotten better. With Brady, though, man, he doesn't have to do a lot. All he's got to do is get the ball out quick to those weapons and let those guys make plays.
So we'll find out a little bit more about that. Rod and I talked a little bit about Cam Newton and where he might land, and it looks like because of the coronavirus, we won't know for any time soon because these teams can't do physicals, right? So
he did look good in that Chargers uniform, though. I gotta say,
you know what? I could see Cam in LA. It feels like it would be a good fit for him, right?
I think so, man. And he's coming in with another guy who's familiar with the state of North Carolina too, and Keenan Allen. Man, them guys can do some damage.
I think that's a good. I think that's a good fit for him. I also think like the perfect scenario for the NFL this year. It's not going to happen because there's no way it's going to happen. But if in some way the Falcons could convince Cam Newton to come there and then convince New England to take Matt Ryan. Bring Matt Ryan back.
I'm telling you.
With
Ryan with the hot takes there. That's a new one. I haven't heard that one yet.
He's from Boston. He went to Boston College.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
He went to Boston College.
Played at Boston College.
I think Matt Ryan with Josh McDaniels could actually be pretty good. And it's a better option outside of Cam Newton than anything else that's out there. It's not going to happen.
That's actually pretty clever.
Well, imagine too Cam going down there and pairing up with Julio, who he's been working out with before, and you get Todd Gurley, two guys that were legends. You know, Cam's proud AT alien, so I know they'd be hype about having him.
You know, I was thinking actually because of that Miami would be the best place for him because it's close to Georgia. They need a quarterback. They've got Ryan Fitzpatrick starting, and I mean, if I had to choose between Cam at 85% or Ryan Fitzpatrick and now a weaker AFC East because Brady's gone. To me, it's kind of wide open, although Buffalo looks like they might be the favorite this year with Brady gone.
Definitely.
You know, I wouldn't count out New England either. I mean, they did have a top 5 defense, and knowing New England, I've been saying this for a couple of months now. I was hoping I was hoping Carolina would draft Jalen Hurts at the top of the second round. I'm really feeling like New England's going to grab him in the bottom of the first. He just seems like a Patriots pick. He's a coach's son. Josh McDaniels has a whole half of a playbook of run-pass options stuff that he has not been able to run the past couple of years with Tom Brady, but we've seen him run it in the past with Tim Tebow. I would say Jalen Hurts would be a much better pro than Tim Tebow ever was. He's a quick learner. I saw a video with him and Steve Mariucci on the whiteboard drawing up a play. Mariucci was throwing up a play of a Packers play with Brett Favre. And then they stopped for 10 minutes and talked about other stuff. And then he made Hurts go up to the board and redraw what he had up there. And Hurts drew it all up in like a minute, explained everything where the ball was supposed to go. Like he's super smart, and he seems to have this leadership quality with him. I think the Patriots would go. I mean, who do the Patriots have playing at quarterback right now? Jarrett Stidham and
Stidham's the young guy that they're trying to mold. But I saw a graphic too with Cam Newton in a Patriots uniform, so I don't think that's completely off the table as well. But I like Jalen Hurts there though. He's quiet. He's got that Belichick vibe about him. He's just kind of work.
That's the one thing I question about Newton going to New England would be Newton's personality. Kind of a loud guy in terms of personality, not necessarily loud overall, but in terms of personality, that's just not really what Belichick typically goes for. Now he has mentioned in the past that he has a ton of respect for Cam Newton, but I think the guys that New England's probably realistically looking at would be like a Jordan Love, a Jacob Eason, and a Jalen Hurts. Like
but it wouldn't be the first time, though, that New England's brought in somebody like that. They've had players with their problems. We said the same thing about Randy Moss.
Randy Moss. I mean,
it's different. A lot of people always say, though, it's different when it's the quarterback you're talking
That's
about.
true, too. I mean, it's Brady. You've been having Brady for 20 years, who's also getting lit at Kentucky Derbies. So, I mean, you know, he's definitely having this fun, too. But, yeah, it would be I don't know how they would handle his fashion sense.
Yeah, well, I mean, oh, my God. Can you imagine Cam coming to a press conference in New England wearing a black leather house coat with like a Kangol and like some flip flops or something?
I just want to know what his Christmas present to Belichick would be.
Oh man!
Oh my God! I mean, it would be the best story. I did say the one place that I thought would be even bigger than him going to New England would be if let's just say fantasy world here. Cam decides I'll be a backup for a year, prove my worth, and get back out there next year when people can see me. What if he became the backup for the Dallas Cowboys? And the reason why I mention them is because they're in a situation where they've got a young Dak Prescott pressing to be the highest paid quarterback in the league. They got him on a franchise tag right now, so they don't have to sign him next year. But if you bring in Cam Newton on like a 2-year deal, say, I don't know, like $20 million, you get a team option after year one so they can cut Cam with no dead money or anything like that after the fact. You let Cam sit as backup. That basically is going to put pressure on Dak to play, to earn the contract he's asking for. Because if he slips up, Jerry Jones now all of a sudden has this former league MVP sitting behind this guy that's only 30 years old. And if Dak isn't the guy they want to give, $200 million to, Cam will take 120, for 4 years and, be behind that offensive line and hand off to Zeke and have Amari Cooper as number one. It would be a play for Cam.
But
I mean, it'd be
the same time,
over 4 years, $30 million each.
But at the same time, I feel like this man out here getting jacked, working out the gospel music. He coming a little different this year. I'm not sure he's about sitting on the bench for a year. I ain't never seen nothing like that.
There's no starting spots.
That's my thing with Cam Newton.
I mean, there's a few, man.
I have a really hard time seeing Cam Newton take a backup role.
Yeah, I'm just especially Dak. But
I know that's what I'm saying.
I think that would be a good move to Jameis Winston, though. I think that'd be the move for Jameis Winston.
That might be
maybe.
I think one other thing I did see yesterday is that the Cowboys actually had a video interview with Jalen Hurts also, so they may have some interest in.
Okay.
Yeah. So Jalen's going to end up being like this pawn, like in everybody's stuff. I'm telling you, man, the Patriots. I feel like the Patriots are going to grab this dude, and he's going to be the 2020 version, if we have a season, of Lamar Jackson, where like Lamar went in the first round. No one thought he could be a quarterback, and then he took over the league. And it's the same type of thing, run pass option. If you've got parts around, like, I mean, the Patriots have Sony Michel. They could easily pick up a decent wide receiver second, third round. I mean, it's not like they're going to suck because Tom Brady left. It's still the AFC East, and they kind of rebuilt the defense last year. So they're going to be in games. They're just going to be ugly, 13-7 type of, ugh. But they'll be 11-5.
While we're on Jalen Hurts, how many NFL starting quarterbacks is Lincoln Riley going to end up having when it's all
honestly, man? They need to get him to the league because
that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
they thought that the Falcons thought they were getting him in Cliff Kingsbury. They hired the wrong Texas Tech guy. Man.
Yeah,
I wanted Lincoln Riley to come here because he's got ties to ECU, and I wanted him to come to Carolina when we were looking for a coach. But it sounds like they didn't really even put out any feelers for him in the NFL. And I mean, your head coach at Oklahoma. You've had 2 Heisman winners and a finalist. Like, I mean, it's not a bad gig.
What I've heard about it,
definitely not.
He really wants to win a national championship at Oklahoma. So that's what he wants to do before he goes to the NFL. I think.
Well, he's got another Heisman contender potentially next year.
He does.
Hopefully, hopefully, we'll see what happens with all that, and luckily that's a good bit away. So we're holding out hope that we'll still have fall sports in August and whatnot. Wanted to shift over real quick to the NBA. The NBA Hall of Fame class for this year has been announced. It was no surprise. Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett, and of course Kobe Bryant. In your
don't forget
opinion, and I'll
Tamika
start.
Catchings, Des. You got to show love, man.
Well, I was just giving the headliners, just the headliners.
Eddie
It's a small show, Brandon. It's a small show.
You know how the world is
But,
today, man.
Well, I'll start off with you, Brandon. Is this the greatest Hall of Fame class in NBA history?
I don't know if it's the greatest, but it's definitely up there. I think if they would have added Allen Iverson, it would have hands down. With that four, it would have been hands down, no debate, the greatest. But with those three, definitely not going wrong. There's not a lot of depth. You'd like to see maybe a few more, but first ballot guys, no argument. KG, you honestly probably the two greatest power forwards to ever play the game. Usually, if you ask somebody, it's either KG or Tim Duncan, so you get them both. And then Kobe Bryant, the second coming of Michael Jordan. So definitely hype. Wish Kobe was here to see it for himself, unfortunately. But I think it's a really good class. And shout out to Tamika Catchings as well for the WNBA. She's been a staple, a pillar in that league for like the last 2 decades. So big shouts out to her too. But I think it's a really good class. Would love to see AI though.
I think it's the greatest.
We'll talk about AI in a second. But yeah, do you think it's the greatest class?
I think it's the greatest, especially when you consider all that they won. I went back and looked at the other classes. The only one that I would put maybe in this same discussion is Michael Jordan, David Robinson, and John Stockton back in like 2009, I want to say. And they didn't win as many championships as this group won. And that's in big part because of how great Jordan was. But this is a group that won 10 championships together when you talk about, or actually, I guess 11 championships together when you talk about Duncan, Garnett, and Kobe Bryant. You talk about also guys that Brandon kind of touched on this a little bit. Those three guys are top 3 at their position all time. It's hard to fathom even another group coming along that's going to be as good as this one because you just don't see that too often where you're talking about guys that we're talking 3 guys that are all top 3 at their position all time.
That's a good point. Yeah,
it's going to be like that until Chris Paul, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh and LeBron's class. It'll probably be until that.
Depends on when they retire. Also.
Yeah.
I mean, LeBron like he had another 5 years in him.
He's going to play with Bronny. He's going to play with LeBron.
Yeah. That's goal. I think it is. I really do. And I went back to go look at the Hall of Fame classes. You mentioned the class of 2009. Jordan, David Robinson, John Stockton, Jerry Sloan, and C. Vivian Stringer. Many people rank that as the best class of all time. This class, along with Bryant, Tim Duncan, and Kevin Garnett, Tamika Catchings is in there. Kim Mulkey, Rudy Tomjanovich, Barbara Stevens, Eddie Sutton in that one. The class of 1980 ain't bad. Oscar Robertson, Jerry Lucas, Jerry West were the headliners of that class. But once you get past that, you start getting into like 2018, Ray Allen, Grant Hill, Jason Kidd, Steve Nash.
That's a really
Maurice. I mean, that's a pretty legendary class.
It's really good, but it's not as great as these 3 guys are.
Right. A lot of it's like if Grant Hill hadn't had the injury plague seasons that he had, then this would be a super class if he was the headliner of it. But I mean, you got Jason Kidd's in there, Ray Allen's in there, so that's up there. But I would probably agree this might be. Yeah, true. Although he stole one of those from was it Shaq? It was Shaq
Kobe,
he stole one.
Kobe.
I mean, we say D-Rose stole one too. So.
Yep, D-Rose got one from LeBron, I believe. And LeBron was probably about to lose one to Giannis. So
half the current league has stolen one from LeBron.
Exactly. Pretty much. Now, I did want to touch on one more thing. And as you know, this past weekend was WrestleMania weekend. WrestleMania 36. It was supposed to be in Tampa. For one, I want to talk about the gumption of Vince McMahon to continue to be running these shows when he basically took advantage of the fact that at the time Florida didn't have a stay-at-home order, so they were able to still get together and tape their performance centers in Orlando. So Raw, SmackDown, and NXT have all still been doing shows each week for the past 3 or 4 weeks. UFC, Dana White, they've been still trying to do shows. They actually have a show, I think, in a week or 2 they were supposed to do, 15 days, and they can't get the headliner out of Russia right now. So I'm not even sure, or they don't have a place to do it. And he's still like, we're going to do it. So my question to you guys, I caught a glimpse of WrestleMania, the Saturday show. Came home, turned on WWE Network. There's nothing on, so I was like, well, it's WrestleMania weekend. I would have been hyped for it anyway. And I turned over to it and started watching it, and there's no fans. Like, they're in an empty performance center. It's basically like they're in a warehouse, pretty much, with announcers, and they've got people kind of out there. Rob Gronkowski's the host, but there's no fans. And normally they were expecting 80,000 fans for this event that would have been on Sunday. And without it, it just didn't feel right. So my question, and I'm going to start off with Ryan here. What sports could you see surviving without fans? Because, I've laid it out there on social media to get that question from that answer from other people. And there's some sports we probably could do it without fans, but watching WrestleMania made me realize we can't do some sports without fans, WWE being one of them. What would you say is one or two of the sports we could actually possibly do without fans? And what are your thoughts on like the NFL? Seems like they're forging ahead. Would you even want to watch an NFL game with no fans in attendance?
I think I'd be okay with I would be okay with the NFL and the NBA going without fans, because I don't think the atmosphere, except for in a few places, really plays that big of an impact on the game. Now college sports is a completely different thing, because home field advantage is so huge in college athletics that I think it would be hard. It would be hard to fathom it for college sports. But I think the NBA and the NFL, we see. I think for the NBA, and it seems like the idea right now to finish this season at least, would be to do something in Las Vegas, basically, because Las Vegas is basically sitting empty with all the tourism that's not going there at the moment. I think watching that would almost be like watching a summer league game, when there's really nobody that's in attendance at those games a lot of times. So I think the pro sports, like the NFL and the NBA, I think they could survive it. College sports, though, I don't think could survive something like that.
Brandon, your thoughts?
Well, man, I think it's tough for football and basketball. Like, man, I don't want to see Arrowhead empty. I don't want to see Lambeau empty. I don't want to see the Staples Center empty. I think your best bet, to be honest, is golf at this point. They want it to be quiet anyway. They're always telling fans to shut the hell up anyways. So I think that'd be the easiest. Not a lot of room. And you can watch it from, like, clubhouses. Like, you don't have to actually be there live and get the same environment on the course. People are getting smashed anyway, so, like, you're half drunk. It really doesn't matter, to be honest. I really feel like golf would be the easiest transition.
Yeah.
After that, I don't know, man. I was going to say NASCAR, but I feel like that might be kind of hard. Like,
no, NASCAR is like...
There's not really a tailgate like
that.
NASCAR
is kind of all.
So,
gotta be there.
So, yeah, I think I'm going to just rock with golf, man. I think
NASCAR is like it's like the same thing as the WWE crowd. It's about the same thing. So, you got to
all you would hear is 40 cars.
Yeah.
Just going around for 3 hours. Like, I don't know if I can deal with that.
It'd be a lot less PBR cans to pick up afterwards. But anyways. I think I'm going to go with golf, man. I think that'd be the easiest transition without the noise.
Hey, I saw the NASCAR, the iRacing thing they did last week had 1.5 million viewers on TV.
That's
so either
pretty
people
cool,
were
man.
bored out of their mind, or
back in there.
And I actually flipped it to it, and I was asking my kid, who she's 9, she's in the 4th grade. I was like, "Does that look real to you?" She was like, "Yeah, it looks real." I was like, "That's a video game simulator. They're like, there's guys in little boxes racing the cars around." So on that end, maybe I agree. Golf, maybe tennis, maybe, I guess. When they were talking about doing this, when all this happened during tournament week, and you saw conferences shutting down, conference tournaments and things like that. I remember the original first domino that fell was Golden State announcing they weren't going to play in front of fans. And I remember seeing it at the time and thinking, that's going to be kind of weird. And I didn't think about it from the perspective of watching it on TV. At the time, I was thinking about it in terms of the players. Like, people were saying, "Oh, well, how can the players play without fans?" And I'm like, basketball players play without fans all the time. I mean, if you go to the park and play, there's no fans. I mean, you've grown up playing basketball without people really watching you play for the most part. So I didn't think that would be a problem. But then again, after seeing WrestleMania, or part of it from Saturday's event, and no knock on WWE. I mean, I get it. They're not even really making money off this week. I saw they're going to lose like $22 million in revenue just from not having a gate and not having merchandise sales and everything else over this weekend. It's their big, nugget for the year. This is the end of their season, so to speak. And I'm not even sure if they're going to do shows after this ends because I don't know how you really go about doing it. So I commend them for trying, but I think it taught the whole sports world that you kind of need fans for the experience. And I agree with both of you. Basketball, especially college basketball, I don't see the point in doing it without fans. I refuse to watch the NFL without the crowd involved, without the fans there. Like if it's just those guys in an empty stadium or whatever, first of all, you're already putting 100 people between two teams out there already. So if you can do that, then you might as well put another, 50,000 out there watching them if it's okay for them to be out there, So I don't think that you can do that with football. The problem with the sports you can do it with, a lot of people don't really watch them. Like, people don't really care about golf like that. I don't know if people would pick it up because there's nothing else to watch. I mean, unless it's the Masters or unless Tiger's leading on Sunday, and then everybody that's not a golf fan tunes in because they don't want to miss out. But I was just trying to think, maybe both of you guys are baseball fans. Two of the bigger baseball fans I know, in fact. Did you see them playing baseball without fans in attendance?
Oh, that would suck.
Yeah, it would be. I think a big thing with baseball, especially, is it's a casual. It's kind of like golf a little bit in a sense, and that it's a casual sport, and it's kind of one of the sports that you want to watch with your feet kicked up and a beer in your hand, and like having conversations with people that you don't know, and like without that going on around it, it's kind of hard to fathom baseball, really.
Yeah, I mean, baseball's like one of those sports.
You're talking more being there at the stadium, though, right?
Yeah,
Not at home, or
it's one
both.
of those sports where, like, fans are encouraged to get involved at baseball games. They got sing-alongs, catching foul balls, kids playing catch. Like
seventh inning stretch.
It'll be hard to do a seventh inning stretch without fans.
Yeah, and see, I'd also saw. We've said this since we started doing this format, that I wasn't going to just do 3 or 4 rundowns per day because, there was nothing going on. I didn't believe in doing shows just to do shows. And I've been seeing sports talk radio here locally and just nationally, as well as shows like First Take and Undisputed and others, just kind of running out of stuff to talk about. They're talking about best point guard ever or best team, that kind of thing. And that was kind of the pivot we were going to do ourselves, but not every day. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I'd seen was regarding this in terms of, what can we do, going forward regarding this type of topic with no fans in attendance. And it feels like everyone wants it to go forward just so there's something to talk about. But again, going back, or something to watch. But again, it was painful to watch, like watching WrestleMania and seeing these guys, because you can hear them. A lot of times they call these matches out in the ring, and you can hear them like talking to each other and like smacking each other, and there's no filter, like, so you can just hear everything going on. And I think it would jar too many viewers to like if you were watching the NBA game, to hear LeBron James screaming at teammates to get back on defense and do that and do this for 3 hours. Like, I think it would take away a little bit of the magic for the fans of like, how did that happen? Oh, well, I just heard him direct traffic for 20 seconds before they actually shot the ball or whatever. It feels like it's pulling the curtain back. And me personally, as big of a sports fan I am, I'd be willing to wait. I'd be willing to wait until this gets to a point where we can start having large groups again before we really. I wouldn't want us to come back too early and spoil the experience, I guess.
I think I'd be okay with the NBA doing the Vegas idea, but anything past that, I think, is probably needs.
Well, explain the Vegas idea. So is it basically all the teams would be in Vegas?
The idea, it would basically be all the teams would be quarantined in hotels in that area, and I think that they would have to. I believe, according to the TV contracts, every team would have to go, and like all 30 teams would have to be there. You play out the final 5 to 7 games because you have to get 70 games for the TV contract for the regular season. And then you take the playoff teams and you do the playoffs in one spot, basically. It would almost be like an NCAA, like a big NCAA tournament.
How they do the summer
league. Fans, right?
But no fans.
But no fans. But even summer league has fans in there, so there's still a certain level of, like interaction, I guess. And the NBA is different than all these other leagues because we're saying that maybe they could do it without fans. the fans are the closest to the players in the NBA than they are any other league there is. Like they're right.
So,
I mean, you could literally high five a fan, you know.
But
so it's a different experience, right?
I think so, definitely. But as far as like when games, I understand. From a media perspective, though, if you can allow media to go to these games and fans can't, I understand people are gonna be sad. But hey, I'm trying to make some money right now. So from a job perspective, I'm like, we need to get the media back in there. We need to get these games back going. But I think for events. I think for events though, man, like the NBA Combine Summer League, there is fan interaction, but it's not really for fans in the aspect of it's more for coaches. It's more for scouts. So, those events, I don't mind seeing getting locked out. Like, we need to have a combine. Without the combine, guys like Dame Lillard and other guys from small colleges probably aren't first-round picks. So, I mean, I'd like to see Isaiah Miller get a chance to do his thing at the combine, guys like that.
Yes. Shout out to UNCG, Spartan Pride. I'll close it on this note. Of course, it's impossible for any of us to know when exactly this is going to end. But, I was talking to my wife, of course, all the kids are out of school. They've got it, I think, through May 15th, but it's pretty obvious now they're not going back this year. And as each day goes by, it seems like it stretches a little bit further out in terms of where the end point might be, because really no one knows. Have you begun to worry about fall sports being affected by this yet? Meaning things that like high school football, college football, stuff that would be starting really late August going into September? Or do you think this might be able to flame out before then real quick? Or are you worried about it, I guess I should say?
I'm worried.
I think if you're in this business, you have to be worried about it.
I'm very worried. I'm very worried
because that's how you make your money.
Let it out, boys. Just let it out. Just get it all out there. We're just here to share each other's feelings.
If you ask the president, Little League is going to get to play this year. So
apparently,
guys, optimism.
Like, wow, that's news to me. Wow, that's great.
That's what I said. It's hard for me to fathom Little League getting to play, but that's
I agree.
If we get the Little League World Series, it's on. I'm covering something.
That'll be the highest viewed Little League World Series of all time. They'd probably have like 30 million people.
You have a season first, guys.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know.
I know you. Go ahead, Brandon.
I was just gonna say I've been hearing a lot, man. People are thinking this thing really won't peak until the fall. So I mean, we really might not see a sense of normalcy until like next year, January, February. So honestly, I don't see sports coming back this year. I don't think football is going to start on time. I think that's a reach. Recruitment events, AAU stuff's already been canceled. Spring football you're missing out on. Homecomings are getting canceled already. Virginia's on lockdown till June already. So I mean,
Yeah. I mean, and North Carolina's going to be right behind them. Like I fully imagine by the time we get to April, they're like, you know what? They just don't want to scare these parents yet that are having to teach these kids at their houses and don't know what they're doing. They don't want to put it on them yet. Like, oh, you got them for the whole rest of the year.
Like your problem now.
Your problem. Yeah.
Still think
you you feed them lunch.
You still don't think we're underpaid?
Right. Right.
Might be
so
the
we'll see what happens.
Best bargainshiip that teachers have ever got.
Me and my wife were joking around because my oldest Cameron, she's 14. She started freshman year at East Forsyth this year, but we had her homeschooled for the past year and a half. So she just went back this year, but we already knew how to do all this from the year and a half that we had her here for half of 7th grade and 8th grade. So when this went out, of course, she was ecstatic because she didn't want to stop homeschool. And we just kind of slipped right into the routine of what we had before in terms of what to do with them. And I'm getting online and I'm seeing parents just like straight, like panicking, like, should my kid be yours? What time do I get them up? What do I feed them? I don't understand how they're going through so much work. What do I do? I'm supposed to be working right now. Like, and I don't say I'm laughing at them, but me and my wife are just looking at like, they literally had no clue like how much work this is for these teachers. And now these teachers are at home trying to do this with these kids, and every teacher got a different method. And it's just, no one was ready for this at all. No one was prepared. And I think that's why at least Winston-Salem County is holding off from just saying, screw it, the whole year is just a wash. But
apparently it was just the flu. It wasn't a big deal, people
we're going to magically go away. Yeah, it was nothing.
So, just a flu. More
My
like
family-
influenza, you know.
All I can say about the children being at home thing, and Brandon will agree with this, it's a fantastic time to be childless.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah. You're not the first person I've heard say that. That's real. Like I'm seeing people carrying wine glasses at like 1 PM.
Oh, yeah.
Like, how's that history class going, parents? So it is what it is. We're gonna end it on that note because I know both you guys are busy, you got things to do. Tell them where they can find you guys on social media. Starting off with Ryan, where can they find you? Because I think you said you were going to pick back up your podcast, but
yeah,
I don't know what you're going to talk about.
I don't either.
Where would they go to?
Held off to this point, but it's at Ryan Stone Sports on Twitter, and then it's just Ryan Stone on Facebook.
Okay, and then Brandon, where can they find you on social media?
Oh yeah,
sir?
most definitely check me out, Brandon Lee TV, young up and comer, at Brandon Lee TV _TV on Instagram, everywhere Brandon Lee TV. Podcast coming back hopefully next week. Might have to shift to some more music, some more culture, some more show breakdowns. So we'll see. Definitely try to keep some sports in, but y'all tune in for all the latest and keep watching Live with Desmond Johnson, or the Rundown with Desmond Johnson.
Hey, man, hey, I want you to review Empire and how it all of a sudden sucks. It sucked for like the past year, ever since Jesse did that thing. Like they've just been like.
I left that show about 2 years ago. That show, when that show went
it's
down.
Horrible.
It was the season finale of season 1. It went straight soap opera on that episode, and ever since
I'm guilty. I ain't gonna lie. I'm still a faithful watcher. Waiting on the new episode next week. We still watch it.
I cannot watch
it. But it's a
glued.
chore. It's a chore. Like we watch it because we put so much time in it. We're just like we're gonna let them talk God. We're gonna watch it.
It's like being a Panthers fan almost. It's like you just can't quit. Now you've been getting.
I'll be right here. I'll be right here in the fields, right here. It's gonna be
rough.
It's gonna be
you at this point. It feels so good. It hurts so good.
I mean, 3-13 don't look bad. 3-13 don't look that bad for my Panthers this year. We'll see what's popping with them.
You mean the University of Temple at Carolina Panthers?
Oh
yeah,
my God.
Pretty much.
Honestly,
Let's grab every player that's ever been drafted from Temple and Baylor and just throw them on this team. And it's a bunch of 1-year contract guys. I don't know what's gonna happen, but
Matt Rule's about to start calling guys. He's about to start calling guys he went to high school with, see if they can still play. Like, I mean, you ain't that old.
Hey man, you played safety a couple years ago, didn't you? You want to come over here and
I gotta fill this, guys. I gotta fill this roster out.
Come on in. I got 53 spots I gotta fill in here. Come on in.
I know.
Only guys I've met, I've grown up with, coach known.
So we'll end it on that spot. And Brandon's on WXI Sports. So you can catch him on there during the week as well, too. We'll give you news on our upcoming NFL Greatest Team Ever bracket. We're going to have media entities from the area voting on these teams. A 64-team bracket. Big, huge deal. Will be later in April. And then also we are doing over at sportsclimatemonthly.com the past couple of years we've put out what's called Myth Becomes Legend series that's followed the state championship runs for East Forsyth, the one that they did in 92, where they went undefeated and were nationally ranked. And then when they finally went back and got a second one in 2018, well, they went back. We were actually going to do a 30 for 30 type documentary with Game of Inches with the whole program. And we were literally meeting with Coach Willard and planning out interview times when all this hit, like literally the week after everything hit. So we had to, of course, cancel that. So because of that, we're doing Myth Becomes Legend 3 that follows the 2019 East Forsyth team with footage from Game of Inches. That'll be out a little bit later this spring. So definitely we're trying to pump some new content out on Sports Counter Monthly for people to read, view, and enjoy. We'll be back with another episode of The Rundown here when there's something to talk about. I'm not gonna promise a certain date. Something pops up that we feel like talking about, we'll give you some more. But for Ryan Stone, Brandon Blakney, I'm Desmond Johnson. Peace. We'll see you guys next time on The Rundown.
You did?